Presenters joining us online and in person. The session will be chaired by Dr. Sajjad Zohir, Executive Director, Economic Research Group. As discussed, we have with us Dr. Deen Islam, Associate Professor, Department of Economics, University of Dhaka. In this session, we have 4 papers and an outstanding lineup from all over South Asia. We have Mr. Manish Chauhan, Research Scholar, IIT Kanpur, Dr. Ramesh Podel, Associate Professor, Central Department of Economics, Tribhuvan University, Nepal. Mr. Husaindar Hassani, Research Scholar, Goa University, India. Ms. Karathutage Rashmi Anupama, Research Assistant, Institute of Policy Studies, Sri Lanka. I'd like to request the Honorable Chair and the paper presenters to start the session now. And now I'd like to leave the floor to the Honorable Chair to conduct the rest of the session.
Thank you very much, Panem and the organizers, for inviting all of us here. I try to speak.
Sir, is it working?
I think it's working. This is the only one.
Yes.
We're starting about 7 minutes late, but we'll catch up. And welcome to the 4th parallel session. I think working session at this hour. This is the breakout session number 4, in case you are in the wrong place. As I said, I'm Sajjad Zohir with Economic Research Group, and we'll be chairing the session for the next hour and a half. I shall avoid indulging into the broader theme of the session, which is to do with restoring stability and navigating fragility to resilience. That possibly in the introductory session you heard something. I'll basically confine to trade and regional integration, which is the theme of today's session. There are 4 papers, as I've been told, and maybe one of them is not trade, which, if I understand it correctly. The 3 others deal with, and 2 of them deal with trade, and 1 with export, if I'm right. You'll see that the first paper to be presented by Manish Chauhan will be talking about infrastructure and the impact of infrastructure. So there will be a bit of a deviation from the trade and regional connectivity. The 2 other papers, you'll hear the Nepal, the 3 papers that you'll hear are all important in terms of the way they are posed, from one party's perspective. So Nepal dealing with rest of South Asia and inter-industry trade is the major theme. Sri Lankan paper, which will possibly be presented online from Anupama, will be dealing with Sri Lanka's approach to free trade agreement with Indonesia. The other paper, I guess, is mine. Yes. Yeah, that actually is interesting because it delves into the granular, the more subdivided groupings of the export bundle. He'll elaborate the whole thing, but that's to deal with and support export policies. We deal with aggregates, but he gets into the details, and that's interesting. What I saw that all these 3 papers, other than the infrastructure, will be dealing with some aspects of trade. And you may find it interesting in terms of the method where Deen Islam will, as a discussant, bring in his insights into how to, I believe, how to get better things out of it in terms of the approaches, especially the inter-industry approach and also the granular approach. I found it very interesting. The what is it, active list, right? Or something that the Anupama deals in the Sri Lankan paper. That's also an interesting pragmatic approach, how to deal with free trade agreements with other countries. I will not get into the details. I'll just request the presenters. The timelines have been given by the organizers. They stick to it and wait for, whenever the questions come in at the floor discussion level, then you'll get a chance to come back and reply. Please cut down on slides, make the stories communicable so that we can engage. Thank you very much. And first is Manish Chauhan, from Kanpur. He's he's a research fellow at Kanpur, and it's a joint paper, I believe.
Yes.
So he'll be presenting the first paper. Thank you, Manish.
Thank you, sir. So, so my topic for the presentation. So, am I audible? So, my topic for the presentation is comparative study of the impact of Indian transportation infrastructure on farm level performance with focus on inland waterway. So, let me tell you what we have did in this paper in a very short review, that we have just taken four of the infrastructure corridors. So let me first introduce those things. So, so okay, so since we know that so how to make it forward?
This is the
Okay, by this one is okay. Okay. Fine, fine. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Nafis. So, transportation infrastructure are the crucial for the growth. With we have seen that the rail network or road network or waterways are the primary mode of transportations. So, we have just taken four of the infrastructure in our paper. First one is the golden quadrilateral, which is connecting four of our major cities: Delhi, Mumbai, um Kolkata, and Chennai. So in the left hand side, we can see that these corridors, golden quadrilateral, and second one is the freight corridor that is specially designed for the running the goods from one place to another. So the apart from the normal rail network. So, and the third and fourth are the uh, Delhi Meerut Expressway, which is designed to decongestion the city so that people from Meerut or Ghaziabad can run to the city. So in this way, we are having four, and the last one is the just a minute, waterways. So the most important focus we have done in this chapter is of inland waterways. So we have seen that Bangladesh is having this waterways is means their waterway transportation is very having good network. But if you see in case of India, it is not uh, means very good. So let me tell you the data set we have taken it from the World Bank Enterprise Survey, and it is for 2013-14 to 13. We have taken only 2 year data set, that is 13-14, and to 2021-22. So the most important part is it is not working. Okay. So we have done reverse geocoding. So we do not have the data set of which have um, the location of the firms. So we have done reverse geocoding to see that where these firms are located. And we are very thankful to World Bank, so that they have given us this data set. So we have run the DID model to uh, to see the impact whether this corridor is having on firm level performance. So keeping it short, that how the this corridors. So we have in the left hand side It is fine. So in the left-hand side, we are having sales or export or um, ease of transportation as a dependent variable. And on the right-hand side, infrastructure. So we are having four infrastructure. First one is the golden quadrilateral. Second one is the national waterways. And third one is the uh, Delhi Meerut Expressway, and fourth one is the Eastern Dedicated Freight Corridor and Western Dedicated Freight Corridors. Okay, so we are seeing that whether these corridors, after the establishment, they have impact on the firm's performance or not. Okay, so we have run MLogit and Tobit for this, and also the OLS regression to see the DID impact for on the firm performance. So let me tell you this. This is infrastructure dummy, and this is the post dummy. Post dummy is for 2021-22, and all these infrastructure are established after 2013-14. So pre one is the uh, 2013-14 period, and 2020-21-22 is the post period. Okay, so and further we are having controls that we have listed here: innovation input manager workforce, okay, and R&D research skill level. Okay, so these are the result for the inland waterway. So we, the most important part, we have seen that here we have taken dummy as far away dummy, whether the farm is near to the waterways or far away. So it is far away dummy, one for the far away and zero otherwise. So the uh, interaction coefficient is coming out to be positive. It means the further away the firm, as the firm far away from the infrastructure, that is inland waterway. So more is the firm's performance or sales. Okay, and these are the result with the controls variables, and also the other MLogit and Tobit result, which are saying that how the transportation ease has come down or increased. So the dummy, I mean, the coefficient for it is coming out to be negative. It means that as the firms far away from the infrastructure, their ease of transportation going down. Okay, so for the similar is the result for the golden quadrilateral, as the firm is far away from the because the dummy here is the near one. Okay, so if the firm is located near to the golden quadrilateral, so it is one, otherwise zero. So here we have negative dummy for the interaction post into golden quadrilateral. This only means that the firms are as the firm far away from the uh, golden quadrilateral, they are performing better. Okay, and and in the case of transportation ease, so the transportation is going to increase as the firm has uh, nearer or far away from the golden quadrilateral, and if it is nearer, it is decreasing. So these are the results for eastern and eastern dedicated freight corridors. So eastern dedicated freight corridor is from Allahabad to Danpuni. So and the result is similar for that uh, it far away, as the firm is nearer to the infrastructure, their performance is not good, and it is, if it is far away, then it is then their ease of transportation has come down. And these are the, and this is the only result we have came for positive for the post and means interaction dummy, that is uh, if firms are near to the western dedicated freight corridor, their performance has increased. Okay, and similar is the case of Delhi Meerut Expressway. If the firm is nearer to the Delhi Meerut Expressway, then their performance has increased after the establishment of this Delhi Meerut Expressway. So we have also analyzed the characteristic of the firm through this HHI index and EGI index. Okay, I have 1 minute only. So we have also run this propensity score matching to. We have also run the propensity score matching because we do not have parallel trend assumption to be satisfied because we have only 2 years. So that is why we have just strict to the this propensity score matching that there is no impact of control and treatment in their characters. Okay, so we have done the robustness checks through this Haversine distance formula, and similar result we have found in this case also. Okay, so at the last, I would say the key finding of this paper is that the Delhi Meerut Expressway and Western Dedicated Freight Corridors, their rail routes are bringing dividend to the firms which are nearer to the infrastructure over the here. Okay, and for the other infrastructure, we do not see the similar result. Okay, thank you. And maybe I will take only half a minute that it may require maneuvering, rerouting the this infrastructure like Golden Quadrilateral or Eastern Dedicated Freight Corridor to have on the farms which are near, so that they can reap the benefit of nearer to the infrastructure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Manish. It will be good to go and then
Avoid this, please. I want everybody can hear, right? Recording. It will be good to actually know the composition of output that these farms produce. Like you started off automobile surveys and other things, so there are a wide range of things. So maybe later on we can pick that up. The second speaker is, are you the timekeeper? Okay, good. The second speaker is, we have this second paper by, right, Ramesh. Ramesh Parul is Associate Professor, Central Department of Economics. And this is the paper with Raghuvar Vista, right? So this is between Nepal and South Asia. Would be interesting.
Should I go from here?
Yeah, you can come over and switch places.
Or someone can just click it, I can speak from here.
That's you.
Yeah.
You have the choice.
You just give me the slide.
Sit.
Yeah, can I have that one? Okay, dear chair, delegates from different countries, presenters, friends, and lovely students. Good morning. Is that good morning or after? Good morning, everyone. And good afternoon and good evening to our online listener audience. I'm going to talk about the paper called Determinants of Inter-Industry Trade in case of Nepal within South Asia. This is a joint work of Sunit Shrestha, he is my student, and Raghuvar Vista and myself. This is my outline of the paper, just very simple outline. I don't want to spend time here. Let's go for the concept first. What does the inter-industry trade mean? Simply, there are many products we use. They belong within one industry or one industrial group, right? Just for example, you drink Pepsi as well as the Coke, right? These two are horizontal products. They compete each other with the same flavor, same taste, something like that. But if you focus within the Coca-Cola, then Coke and Fanta become two different products. They are vertical competence, produced by same company but in different tastes. Coke and Pepsi are horizontal competitor, and Coke and Fanta, for example, is the vertical one. They belong within the same industry. That means if we talk about any product within one industry, that is called inter-industry trade. And there are two types, horizontal and vertical, as I example before. Then why we should be worried about IIT inter-industry trade is, on average, about 20%, even above 50%. Some of the countries, they are trading within more than 80% even within the inter-industry trade. That means in the 21st century, the export or import or international trade means a kind of inter-industry trade. That's why it is very important topic. And the trade theories, particularly the Linden hypothesis, Ricardian comparative advantage model, and those theories, they belong within this concept. So very important topics. And in the recent time, Krugman, he wrote about a scale of economy that is associated with this concept as well. That's why it covers from the classical economics period to the 21st economics period. So a very important topic. Now let's go to the Nepalese context. If you just have a look at the graph here, this is simple story about the Nepalese trade deficit, right? Import and export and trade deficit in the underline, the shaded line. The next slide is Nepal is performing well below the South Asian other countries. So the issue is particularly important to Nepalese context we are focusing on. In the next slide, given that context, we focus these two objectives or research questions, whatever you say, because they are one or another way, they are synonymous, right? One is to measure and analyze the Nepal's product specified inter-industry trade within South Asia, and to find out what are the determinants of that IIT inter-industry trade. Accordingly, we have said the research question. For that, we need one IIT variable to be the dependent variable that we have constructed according to that Global Index, GLI. The simple formula that the product level data, Xij plus Mij, that means export plus import, minus absolute differences between export minus import in terms of product level and divided by the sum of export and import of that particular product. Is it clear? Hopefully, yes, right? Then accordingly, we calculate the definition. The data have been used for the period of 2015 to 2022. That means 8 years data. And we calculate that, and those data are captured from WITS database, which is very good database. Probably most of you are known about that. And it is compiled from UN Complete database as well, and World Bank together, right? And World Development Indicators data have been used for GDP and population size and for other things. And the distance data has been captured by CEEPI database. So country pairs, Nepal and India, Nepal and Bangladesh, Nepal and Bhutan, and Nepal and Pakistan. The limitation of the country has been restricted because of the data availability. Not from other way, right? My close friend is here, that's why not Pakistan, Afghanistan is included, or so on. Then let's move for our benchmark model, the gravity modeling system we have adopted in the modeling technique. The first model is the simple gravity model. Then we, included the BIMSTEC region because of that country, and that is the dummy variable. The description of the variable are there. You can go through that anytime. If you are confused or want to further dig out in the context of India, Bangladesh, or somewhere else, we can be a joint author. And I'm happy to go ahead on that issue. You can get our contact from the sign-in as well, right? Then this is our index for the 62 products at the 6 digits HS code level. We went through that. These are the major products. I don't want to spend the time on it. Then, the results. Can you go to the next one? Because of the time, I will skip this one. For the result, we found this is the regression result. As you see, the size of the economy does not have the direct impact, direct positive impact. Only the determinants for Nepalese trade is for the manufacturing value added. This one, and the difference in our similarity index as as discussed by linear hypothesis, it does not fit in our context. So, based on this result, that's fine. Based on this result, can you hold on that? Based on this result, there are two important points emerge for our findings. One, Nepal's inter-industry trade within the region is basically guided by the value addition of the manufacturing sector. It has very significant result based on random effect model, not with the fixed effect. And we have gone through the Hausman test, and the suggested method was random effect, not the fixed effect. We did not show it, but we had gone through the Hausman test to select the methodology. And random effect is the preferred one. Normally that happens to the gravity molding technique because of the lot of time invariant variables. And the second important issue is the similarity index that that is measured by per capita income and so on, income status, that has the negative impact. That means wherever our neighbors, even the Nepalese consumer or even Nepalese supplier become rich, they want to move around the European products and so on, more advanced economic product and so on. That's one fact. If you want to trade within the region, basically the manufacturing products should be in high priority. That's the major finding as well as the major policy implication as well. Then can you go to the next slide that I explained? Yeah, for this one, in terms of policy recommendation, we will focus more in the regional implication. We should focus on the cheaper products. We should enhance the product differentiation in terms of flavor, taste, size, even the composition of the product. Those sort of issues are there. Then investment opportunity. Probably we should attract the regional investor to Nepalese farm, particularly in the manufacturing sector, so that the volume of trade can be increased in one or many ways, right? The second we are proposing from the finding is that improving the product differentiation capacity. Maybe like, for example, we have given there ginger and vegetable items that has the high value to weight products because of the level of taste and all these issues come together. Light products with the higher value will be more efficient way to trade in locally, in the regionally as well as the globally, because of it will have the more value addition, more employment opportunity as well, and a lightweight to price as well. Then value addition boost trade, the value and competitiveness, and it will help the to lower the cost of the trade within the region. That's the second. Then the third one, investments in the manufacturing sector is a must because it has a statistically highly significant result, and probably we should promote the technology transfer within the region, and we should go for the automation system. We should support the economies of scale, increasing plant size as well as the production capacity. Probably we should go to develop the human capital for skill development initiatives and so on. This is the way we may go for increased value of manufacturing-based IIT, inter-industry trade. Based on this policy implication, we can go further. Thank you very much. This is my last slide.
Thank you, Ramesh. I'll just put up a question for you to answer later on.
Yeah.
Is the concept of vertical and horizontal thing that you refer to with examples of Coke and Pepsi and Coke and Fanta kind of things. In our concept, inter-industry trade, vertical means something and horizontal means something else. So it will be good to actually look into that as well as into the regional value addition. How does Nepal fit in within the regional context in terms of being a part of a vertically integrated industry? That's very important. And how would you distinguish that with your index? We now move to the third speaker, which is Hussain Das. Hussain Das is co-authored with, he's a research scholar and is co-authored with Dr. Sarat Chandra they'll be speaking on, it's an interesting granular approach to, demystifying the export bundle that you see. And that links up on the kind of farms, the concentration of farms, I believe, if I understood you right.
Yes, sir.
And that gives separate kind of insights, which would be very interesting if complemented with the kind of IIT approach that you see in Ramesh's paper. And two together may give us some insights. While they go on preparing, Manish, okay, Bangladesh is a delta thing. So there's a lot of rivers.
Yeah.
And so water, don't feel bad that India doesn't have that water transport. Because that's not possible.
PDF, it's PDF. No, PPT, I use the native compiler.
You understand. Please go ahead. Corruption partly Anupama online. Something is wrong with the PDF file, which should be shared the one that we had. You want to select it?
Yeah, just presenting from the. You just open your file directly, then I will present. Open your camera, we will watch.
The conduct we have the mail which mail actual. Or the mail actual. Phone mail actual. It's a mail they want to come. We have
It again.
does the folder have? What a folder that's we have interns.
Sir, I'm Shyam Sir, on the next session, next presenter.
Okay. I wonder if Miss Anupama. Yeah, Anupama, are you ready to speak now? Replace. Yeah, you're online, I guess. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Do you think you can start off right now? With the
Sure,
paper? This is a Sri Lankan paper trying to find ways.
Shall I share my screen?
So please proceed with your paper presentation. Thank you. Can you put the slides on the? We'll do that.
Yes, she will share.
You're ready to go, or you want us to share it with? Okay.
Hope you can see my presentation. Hello.
Yeah, hello, we can hear you.
Okay, can you see my presentation?
That is here.
Yeah, in the slide. Should we? What are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to share it with us? We can share.
Yes, we can see your paper.
Okay,
can-
shall I start now?
Yes, you can start.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Rashmi Anupama, a research assistant at the Institute of Policy Studies of Sri Lanka. And this presentation is based on a research study we conducted about Indonesia-Sri Lanka Preferential Trade Agreement, which focuses on developing a framework for product selection for liberalization. Because you all know that a preferential trade agreement has a limited coverage for tariff phase out. Therefore, product selection should be designed to maximize the trade effect. So let's move to the background. So the preferential trade agreements selectively phase out tariffs within a defined product scope, and the product selected for tariff phase out should have a high potential to increase the trade when existing positive tariffs are eliminated under a preferential trade agreement. So it enables preferential trade agreements to serve as an effective instrument in enhancing the trade between two countries. However, identifying such products and obtaining tariff removal from the partner countries have several challenges. So Sri Lanka declared its preference for a PTA with Indonesia as a step towards integrating with ASEAN and RCEP. Also, Sri Lanka and Indonesia formally launched negotiations for a PTA in July 2024. So let's move to the bilateral trade between Indonesia and Sri Lanka. So in 2023, the bilateral trade between two countries was stood at $430 million, and the trade balance between two countries was heavily skewed in favor of Indonesia, with Sri Lanka's exports were $56.11 million, and the imports were $373.47 million. So in this graph, you can see Sri Lanka's top 10 HS6 digit level exports to Indonesia for the year 2023, and the highest exports can be seen in the knitted or crocketed fabrics, dyed cotton fabrics, and the chemical products. On the other hand, Indonesia's top 10 HS6 digit level exports to Sri Lanka for the year 2023 comprises mainly of coconut oils and its fractions, light oils and preparations, and unstemmed or unstripped tobacco. So if we consider about the tariff structure between Indonesia and Sri Lanka, we can see that there is high tariff for the partner countries' competitive products. For instance, Sri Lanka's wearing apparel sector faced about 25% tariff from Indonesia, and the highest tariffs can be seen in the mixtures of odoriferous substances and mixtures with a value of 77.5% of a tariff. In contrast, Indonesia's exports to Sri Lanka face tariffs ranging from 0 to 15%, mainly for the rubber-related products with a 15% of tariff. So these are the objectives of this study, and the primary objective is to identify key products for the liberalization in an Indonesia-Sri Lanka preferential trade agreement. So let's move to the methodology. In this study, first, we identified offensive list for the Indonesia and Sri Lanka to determine the priority products for the liberalization. To identify offensive list, we have considered 4 specific criteria, and I will explain these 4 specific criteria in the context of Sri Lanka's offensive list. The first specific criteria is the product must already be imported by the importing country from anywhere in the world. To meet this criteria, we have considered Indonesia's average imports from the world for the years 2021, 2022, and 2023 with a threshold of $1 million. And the second criterion is the product should be produced in the exporting country with the capacity for further export expansion. To meet this criteria, we have considered Sri Lanka's average exports for the same period of time, again with a threshold of $1 million. And the third criterion was importing country must impose a positive tariff on the product. To meet this criteria, we have excluded the products with 0 tariff. And the fourth or the final criteria is the exporter should have a comparative advantage in exporting the product. So the products, for this, we have considered standard revealed comparative advantage index, and the products with the index value which is equal or greater than 1 was included in the offensive lists. So after identifying the offensive list, a partial equilibrium analysis was conducted using the BITS SMART tool to estimate the trade effect under a scenario where tariffs on identified offensive list products are fully eliminated. In which Armington elasticity is set for 1.5 by default. However, in this study, we have used empirically derived Armington elasticities from the Global Trade Analysis Project, or the GTAP, for a greater accuracy. Because it is important to use GTAP sector-specific Armington elasticities to increase the reliability of the results, even though they are not country-specific. So, simulations were done for 47 sectors separately using the sector-specific Armington elasticities. So these are the results of our study. So we have identified 157 products for the Sri Lanka's offensive list, and the total estimated increase of exports for these 157 offensive list products is $42.78 million US, and this is 142.72% increase in exports compared to the base year 2021. And the highest export gain can be seen in the wearing apparel sector with 25.93 million export gain. And the second highest export gain can be seen in the textile sector, and the third is the paper products. And if we break this further for the HS6 digit level, so you can see that women or girls' cotton trousers, other knitted or crocheted fabrics, and the men's or boys' shirts made of cotton has the highest export gain under a PTA with Indonesia. So these are the results for the trade effect on Indonesia. So we have identified 57 products for the Indonesia's offensive list, and these 57 products of the Indonesia's offensive list increased their exports by 71.58 million US dollars, and this is 61.56% increase in exports compared to the base year 2022. And the highest export gain can be seen in the rubber and plastic sector with 30.5 million US dollars export gain. And the second export gain can be seen in the paper products, and the third is the chemical products. And if we go for the HS6 digit level, natural rubber, TV reception apertures, and technically specified natural rubber has the highest export gain under a PTA with Sri Lanka. So let's move to the discussion and way forward. So this study highlights the potential of an Indonesia-Sri Lanka preferential trade agreement in unlocking untapped trade opportunities. However, achieving tariff liberalization may be challenging because both countries might be defensive in protecting their domestic industries. For example, Indonesia also exports wearing apparel, and they may resist tariff elimination in this sector. Similarly, Sri Lanka might be reluctant to liberalize tariff for the rubber-related products. So a possible way forward is phasing out the tariff elimination process following the previous free trade agreements of Sri Lanka. For example, Singapore-Sri Lanka Free Trade Agreement and the Sri Lanka-Thailand Free Trade Agreement. So the next phase of this research will employ a GTAP-based general equilibrium model to estimate the economy-wide impact of a possible preferential trade agreement between Indonesia and Sri Lanka. So these are the references, and thank you.
Thank you, Kurosaki. Please wait till the end for questions to be raised in case you have answers to give to those. Next, we move to the last presentation by this time. This is on the granular approach to analyzing export data. The title is Export Granularity in the Indian Manufacturing Sector. Hussein Dag is a research scholar and co-authoring with Dr. Sarad Chand. I have a quick question for Anupama to think through. When you plan your strategy for Indonesian PTA, FTA, what do you assume regarding the Indonesian side? Do they follow the similar approach? This is a question that you may like to address towards the end. I'm just taking the time in between. Do you assume that the Indonesians would be doing the same kind of calculations to go for a FTA with you, or they have a different approach?
So, good morning, everyone. And my name is Husendat Hassani. I'm a research scholar and working under the guidance of Professor Sara Chandran. So today I'm presenting our joint work titled The Export Granularity and Trade Competitiveness of the Indian Manufacturing Sectors. Thank you from conference organizers of SANI to give me this opportunity to present my paper in this prestigious conference. Actually, in international trade, we have new classical trade theories, then we have new trade theories, and then we have heterogeneous model of international trade. And finally, we have export granularity, which is built on this heterogeneous model of international trade. So today, I'll talk about export granularity in the context of Indian manufacturing sector. So from old trade theories, comparative advantage theory, we know that the international trade allows or shift the resource into producing the goods that the country can produce most efficiently. And hence, trade allows nations to escape the constraint of their production possibility frontier. So the conclusion is that whatever impact on the sector is comparative advantage, it impact on the sector's productivity as well. Most recent international trade theories evidence that few large firms significantly contribute to the total export of an economy or a sector. So in our case, these few firms is known as granular firms. And then the export of these few firms, superstar firms, is export granularity in the literatures. So that's why in this, the objective of this paper is to investigate the export granularity and trade competitiveness of the Indian manufacturing sector. So these are the literature which is supporting the granularity concept in different countries of the world. And most recent work has been done by Gobert. It is Hockey 2021. So it is kind of a model development work. And so we use equation 1 to calculate the granularity for different variables. For example, the granularity for export, the granularity for output, and the granularity for the other factors of productions. We use the equation 2 and equation 3 to use the trade balance index before and after excluding the top exporting firms. So using firm level data gives us this opportunity to calculate the trade balance index as well as the left variable comparative advantage index for each industry before and after excluding the top exporting firm, and then examine the role of these top exporting firms on comparative advantage or the trade competitiveness of an industry in manufacturing industries. Then we use basic left variable comparative advantage and calculated 3 synthetic indicators. That is trade technological intensity index before and after excluding the top exporting firms in this similarity index. So the third synthetic indicator is polarization indicators, and this polarization indicators says in which sectors or in which product group the export is more concentrated. And finally, we use the convergence regression analysis to examine how the existence of granular firms or superstar firms impact on trade competitiveness of the manufacturing sectors. So this table shows the share of the largest exporter. In India, Reliance Company is the largest exporter. In the Reliance Company is in 2011, the Reliance Company export almost 28% of the total manufacturing export. In 2019, the share of the company increased even more to more than 33%. As we increase the level of this aggregation, so the granularity share increased. For example, in all manufacturing, if we consider all manufacturing firms, Reliance company export 28%. But if we consider each 2 digit and then take the average, the largest exporting firms export 30%. At 4 digit level, the largest exporting firm, on average, the largest exporting firms export more than 51%. In this table, we also use export share of granular firms for the top firms, the top 3, top 10, top 25, top 50, and top 100 firms. And we can see that in 2019, the top 100 firms export 77% of the total manufacturing commodities or the goods in the Indian manufacturing sectors. Here we compare the granularity in export with the granularity in other factors of production to know whether the granularity in export comes from the whether the granularity in export comes from the granularity in other factors of production or not. But we can see that the granularity exists in total factor productivity, gross output, service input consumption, intermediate input consumption, energy input consumption, in other factors, but the granularity in export is much higher than the granularity in other variables. Here we calculate the trade technological intensity index to know in which product group India has a comparative advantage. So we divided based on the previous literature, we divided the total Indian manufacturing sector into 3 groups, which is low technology group, medium low technology group, and high medium tech product groups. So then we calculate these trade technological intensity index for each product group before and after excluding the top exporting firms. The results show that India has a comparative advantage in low tech product group, in high medium tech product group, while it has a comparative while it has a comparative disadvantage, in
have an auto system.
Okay.
It goes on.
Okay. So India has a comparative advantage in low tech product, I mean high medium tech product group, but in medium low tech product group, it has a comparative disadvantage. In this comparative disadvantage mainly come from the refined petroleum product. We did the analysis at 2 digit and 4 digit level. At 4 digit level, we consider that these comparative disadvantage come from refined petroleum product. But recently, after 2015, India has a comparative advantage in refined petroleum product. That's why it has a comparative advantage in medium low tech product group. So, okay, just I will go to the conclusion. So this is the conclusion of the presentation. The top exporting firms export 28 to 34% of the total manufacturing export. The granularity exists, but the granularity higher in export compared to other factors of production. Then Indian manufacturing sector has a comparative advantage in low tech and high medium tech product group, and has a comparative disadvantage in medium low tech product group. Then export is more polarized in low tech and high medium tech than medium low tech product groups. So these are the policy implication of our papers. So the paper suggests that government action should focus on diversifying the current export specialization pattern of the country, because over-reliance on the granular firms will face the economy, will face a country to vulnerabilities. And then so the difference between export granularity and the granularity and other factors of production suggests that policy intervention should should be tailor-made precisely at export level rather than at the productivity level or other factors of production and output. And then to further strengthen the current export specialization pattern, trade policies should prioritize supporting small and medium-sized exporter in the Indian context. Then the policy effort should focus to sustain the comparative advantage in the low-tech and high-medium-tech product groups increase the productivity of the low medium-tech product categories. Then trade policies should support the top exporting firms in the medium low-tech groups as they are crucial for maintaining the sector's comparative advantage. In contrast, in the low-tech and high-medium-tech, where the export polarization is high, the role of granular firms are low, the trade policies should support a broader range of firms. So this paper has one limitation as we use data from CMIE. So firms with missing data, there is a lot of firms with missing data, and we excluded these firms from the analysis. So the TBI in left with comparative advantage index do not represent overall manufacturing sectors to the specialization pattern. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Soni. Before we move to our final presenter, discussant, Dr. Dean Islam is an associate professor at Dhaka University Economic Department. And after his deliberation, we'll actually get into the floor discussion before we get a chance to come back to the speakers. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll not take much time. I'll just focus on some methodological issues. These papers and presentations are a bit long, so if I go over them, it will take more than 20 minutes for one paper. So let me just focus on a few methodological issues that I find is important.
Excuse me, I cannot hear properly.
The quality of the paper is improved. So let me start with paper, first paper by Mr. Chauhan. So Ms. Anupama, can you hear us?
I can't hear you, but not properly.
Okay. Is it clear now?
It's a bit clear, but if you can increase the sound, so it will be better.
We are trying.
So the first paper was a bit more on causal inference. So the paper uses PID differentiation method. But one thing is missing in the paper is important assumption. The parallel assumption is not tested, is not checked. The thing is that if this assumption is not validated, is not checked, the conclusion of the DID method, we need to take it with concern. So I think it would be better if the paper actually do the parallel test by comparing the outcome, the sales and exports between these two groups, treated and control, whether the farms are near inland waterways or further away from this infrastructure. And one thing is that the treatment is not actually binary. It's kind of continuous. You are using the distance. The distance is a bit difficult to interpret because distance or location is itself outcome of some farm level optimization. So the distance of farm is not independent. So I think along with the DID, it would be better if you can't do the parallel test assumption, then you can actually do a scientific control method. If you tell that the assumption violates or if data does not form with you. The other thing I think is important for paper one is there might be some potential issue. You did use PSM, propensities for matching, but propensities for matching itself might be suffer from selection bias. So you are comparing treated with control farm based on observable characteristics. But the farms, those are like near waterways, inland waterways, compared to farms, those are far away from the inland waterways. They may be fundamentally different in terms of their farm specific economic value. And also these inland waterways also have some important geographical characteristics that might correlate with farm level and level characteristics. So you need to add some explanation how you can account this unobserved confounders. Then one issue you used Haversine distance, but distance, especially to inland waterways, is actually if you take Haversine distance, in most of the cases, it depends on trend. It depends on the access to that inland waterways, the cost, the time. So it would be, I think, for business, it's more important how costly it is to reach that inland waterways, or how time consuming it is to reach that inland waterways, rather than how physical distance. So any kind of physical distance, I think, is less useful in that case. Maybe you can use some Google Map to know the time, and maybe some cost proxy. That will actually increase the usefulness of the inland waterway. You can also incorporate some other geographic information, the train and the other issues. Another issue that I find important to address is, so in your result, you did not, in your analysis, did not accounted for spatial autocorrelation. So far, those are close to each other. You know, there's a lot of literature in urban economics that farm similar characteristics close to each other for external benefits. So their error might be autocorrelated, especially autocorrelated. So if you don't incorporate those special autocorrelation, the result will be inconsistent. In some cases, inconsistent, and so likely just limit. There's another thing you measured total factor productivity using a different method, ACF, LP, and FP. There are several paper actually measures for both of these methods. But the problem with this measure is about how you estimate the input cost. You are estimating total factor productivity by having some variable factor and some fixed factor. And variable factor, the paper, most of the paper actually use the electricity cost of this type of cost. May not be very accurate in terms of developing country, in India, I don't know, but Bangladesh now. So you need to check whether the input measurement error, whether there is any sensitivity of the result to input measurement error. Why I'm saying this? Because your interaction dummy in many specifications, it turns out to be sometimes positive, sometimes negative. So I think there's something going on. There should be more sensitivity in terms of those measurement of the dependent variable. Okay, these are my few comments on paper one. So let me now move on to paper presented by Dr. Oren. Hello, Ms. Anupama, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. So the second paper is not indeed like causal in nature. It says determinant of inter-industry trade. But it has some test of causality because it uses panel deviation. So the thing is that whenever you use gravity model, some kind of gravity model, so gravity model actually does not give you the causal relationship. It's some kind of identical relationship provided by gravity. And there is always the issue of reverse causality in gravity model. So for example, the inter-industry trade and GDP, it's which one causes? There is always reverse causality. Uh, the thing is that there's another issue with the augmented gravity model is its specific functional form. It assumes a log linear relationship between them. But when you talk about the industry trade, there are many other issues like structural breaks, thresholds, nonlinear effects. So if you don't account it in our gravity model, whatever the estimates we're getting, the average estimates, log infinity. So it would be better if you do some other estimation using other classification. If you can do some non-linear test like Ramsey test, or you can use some other alternative specification in the gravity model, like introducing some positive terms and those non-linearity. You can actually incorporate within the current structure the non-linear. Or you can also use totally non-linearity in same parametric or non-parametric. So you estimated panel deviation, fixed and analytic model, but traditionally the gravity model is estimated by PPML model, model. So there should be some explanation why you are deviating from the established convention of estimating gravity model by PPML model. And as a robustness check, you can actually estimate the same model with PPML and see whether the results are different or you had zero. The final comment would be, inter-industry trade is always dynamic in nature. It's affected by different kind of impact, lag impact, or time varying control variable. That will actually increase the robustness of the data. So let me now quickly move on to paper 3, presented by Mr. Sunny. Again, there's a lot of index estimated, and I think the motivation was to identify the contribution of the superstar farm, but then it also discusses about what the export composition or the low tech or high tech, and whether what is the export community in those export outlet. So let me now just quickly make two quick comments. So you actually acknowledge that you excluded farms with missing data, but this is a very crucial, I think, limitation, which might introduce bias. If you don't account in some way those missing data and just remove them altogether, then identifying superstar farm, because those farms generally have data updated at model level. So that would be overestimated. Whatever the index value or whatever the impact is estimating, those will be overestimated. So whether you can do some, there's different type of imputation techniques as a robustness check, whether you can use some imputation techniques and estimate again the different index values and do regression using this inputted value and see whether there's any change or not. So you can actually do some checks whether the data limitation you were mentioning in the paper is actually severely constraining you from the conclusion you're making in the paper. So you are using the index, some index, like say RCA and trade balance index. There are some other established index to identify the concentration. Identifying superstar farm is in fact measuring the how concentrated the export is. So why not using the established Hirschman-Hunter index or trade index? So they're like more easily understandable and more interpretable. So as a robustness check, you can also include the experimental index, which would be easier for audience, the readers to understand. And also, if you can do the variance decomposition, whether the observed variance in the export can be explained by larger farm or not. So that would be another important analysis, I think, would add to paper's value. And then the last paper, Ms. Anupama's paper. So the paper uses partial economic model, but it does estimate the welfare and those gains. But I think estimating welfare and other type of gain from partial equilibrium model is very difficult to defend. So with partial equilibrium framework, we can actually use some computable general equilibrium model or some detailed model to estimate this impact on welfare and gain. That would be actually that is the standard in agriculture and industry. Another thing is that you used with smart data and those smart model, those are based on some specific assumption of elasticities. But it would be better since you are just putting a number average estimate. So those are always controversial. I think it would be better if you can give some range rather than offering some number. So you can actually do some alternative assumption on elasticity and see whether to what extent you gains and welfare varies. And I think it would be useful for the policymaker and for the leader if you report those range rather than one number. Another thing is that there are some sensitivity tests. So there is 4 criteria you use to select the most potential item of the PTA. But why 1 million? Why not 5 million? Why not 10 million? So I think you can do the same estimate in different thresholds and see how this list changes. Okay. So for PTA, tariff is an issue, but in most of the PTA or FTA, the important issue is non-tariff tariff. So are you incorporating or accounting for this non-tariff varying estimate to identify the list of potential items? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Before I start raising questions, the floor is open so that can you hear me? If there are questions, quick comments, not any elaborated thing. Anybody? Please. Give your name first and affiliation.
I'm Salat Mustafa Pradhan from Department of Economics, University of Dhaka. I have a question for Mr. Hassani. You mentioned that trade competitiveness or granularity, especially in the export sector, is comparatively lower. And we know that export-oriented industries usually need a larger investment, so making it difficult for smaller businesses. You've also said that protectionist policies have a negative impact on farm diversity and productivity. So if we cannot take any protectionist policies, what can we do to save smaller businesses?
We'll take the questions, please. We'll take the questions and ask the speakers to actually jot those down. Any second?
Hello, Assalamu alaikum. I'm Akhil Subrahman from the Department of Economics, University of Dhaka. I had a question for Mr. Cardle that the IIT studies suggest focusing on higher IIT products for exports. But how do we figure out which products will stay relevant in the long term? What if the demand shifts? And I had another question that the study talks about scaling up production, but what about small businesses? Should Nepal focus more on supporting SME, or is it better to go with? Thank you.
Anybody from here, or even if Anupama, you want to raise question, you can do it. No more questions? Okay. I have quick few observations and questions. On the Manisha's paper, this is just wondering, because in Bangladesh recently we had this great urge to use the railway network and move the agricultural produce fast. We couldn't because the marketing structure was more conducive to the road network. Was there any such thing you observed in your data or in some kind of studies in case of the study that you undertook? This is like switching from one transport network to another does raise problem. To Anupama, I had raised that question on the strategic part, what the other part is thinking. I was also wondering that if you find it rational that certain goods should be actually in the free trade agreement in the list, why weren't any move taken by the private sector or the governments of the two countries before all those things are found? There must be some reason why they were not taken up earlier. Is there an interest group issue? Because sometimes, people producing substitutes in one country would resist importation. So, those kind of commodities would not show up in the trade list. I have the last question on Husnaida. Is the relation between superstar and general?
Can you please repeat the question?
What I said is, if you are finding that there's a list of commodities which fit in well from Sri Lankan perspective, and I believe you also are assuming that they would fit in well from the Indonesian perspective, then why were not those taken up in mutual trade earlier? There must be a reason. So have you looked for the reasons why the commodities that you finally end up with as potential candidates for the FTA were not, taken up earlier? Did you get that? Okay.
Yes.
Saying that is the relation between the granular, and because we often talk those things in terms of subcontracting. There are big farms, but there are a lot of little farms which are vertically connected but not visible. So can you reflect that? I now move on to Manish first. Quick 1 minute. I'm assuming there is no more question. Oh, this is the final one. Yep.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Tasnia Kausar Niju, a student of University of Dhaka in Economics Department. I had a question for Mr. Hassani that, as we know, India's name is often pronounced with the Asian titles, though they are not included in that, but often pronounced with them. So if we focus more on the SMEs to develop, so how will India in future plan to focus or plan to coordinate with the fact that they have already reached to some position like some middle income situation where they have already incorporated the export-oriented growth in development sector. So how do India plan to imply on that? That we have already reached a position, but now we have to start from the scratch and focus on the SMEs.
Thank you. We now move on to the speakers. 2 minutes maximum.
Thank you, first of all, for examining my paper. So first I will give answer to the Dr. Sajjad that they are telling that is there any more thing that switching from one transport to another transport. So in my model that we have in the medical one, so there is no such thing that we can test. Okay, because of the because data is not sufficient for that, and for us for the discussion part, Dr. Dean. So I think sir has scrutiny means examined the study that we have done very thoroughly. So first I take with the parallel trend assumption. Parallel trend assumption, that is one of the weakness of our paper, but because we do not have much data, because we have only data for 2 years. So pre-data and post-data is available. All, and we have requested World Bank Enterprise, World Bank also to give us the data for more years, because they have given for two means the location is available for only 2 years. So that is the deficiency of the data. And any PSM that we have used for propensity score matching, yes, yeah, self-selection of the firm can be one of the problem. So that we have to deal with. So I can means think over it about this. And the another thing is that the treatment dummy is the dichotomous variable. So it is one if the firm is near to that and zero otherwise. And we have in the robustness check, we have done have seen from distance of that firm to the particular infrastructure. So that we have done in the robustness check and got the same result as we have on the dummy variable. Okay. And autocorrelation, yes, yeah, that can be a serious problem for any researcher in the empirical one, but we do not have much information, but it is all about sample data. So autocorrelation problem, maybe we can do with the spatial analysis that take care of means autocorrelation of the forms which are means, so that can be done. So we can think over it. And another thing is that yes, we can do sensitivity test for the dependent variable. Yes, that is a very constructive comments. Thank you, Dr. Dean, for that.
Thank you. Ramesh, please announce your full name.
Ramesh Paul.
All right.
Thank you so much, the chair, the panel, and audience. First of all, I would like to thank Saning team for this golden opportunity and to be introduced you all, volunteers and all. Then my special thanks goes to our discussant, Dr. Dean Islam, for his nice comments. However, I may not agree with all comments. There are few comments that are very useful and they may be instrumental to change even the findings. I will go through that. First, the causality issue, not the serious one in the gravity modeling technique. And we are using the index with very a kind of complex index, not that easy causality from independent variable, sorry, dependent to independent point, because impacting the elephants by goat or even smaller than that doesn't make that big sense, right? The second specific functional form, we have gone through the natural logarithm one. If we go for non-linearity issue, maybe some different reason, otherwise it does not make that difference. So I I will go through that and we can see if any different outcome comes. That may be one option, highest impact. The structural break thing for 8-year data, it doesn't make that nice sense to me. It's not the time series one. We have used the 8 years data and we have used the robustness in for 3 years and 5 years, and even the data in trade and those sort of variables. Getting a structural break is very slim possible. I would not say impossible, but very slim possible. But better to say we can go through that. In the gravity modeling techniques, in the tunnel data, it does not make that long effect, right? Then alternative specification for this is the valid comment. Actually, we have just gone through the 2 alternative specification of the equation. We can test a few more. That's fine. As the robustness sake. The PPML one, your comment is very relevant, but what we have done is the 62 top exporting products from Nepal. That's why there is no zero values and no small value as well. There's a significant value, and that clearly captured in the log linearity issues. That's why we use that model. And PPML best fit, as most of you may know, in the case of very lower value, if we convert to the log value, it gives you very minor result, a nominal one, like a 0 or nominal values, even not sufficient to convert to the log linear one. In that case, it captures those sort of issues and it gives you the elasticity measuring into the log itself. In that sense, PPML is a very good one. I'm working on that method as well. So PPML is not needed in this case because we got the top 62 products, which are the top 62 export values of the country at the given year. So that does not make that big sense on the model. Right. Then next one, the dynamic time varying variables. Most potentially we have used that regional trade agreement sort of things. We did not find that big differences. Some other capturing the lag values and so, depending on the some sort of variables, particularly maybe the effects from the GDP, we will check that. That's a kind of valid comments. We can include some sort of policy variables like before the liberalization or after the liberalization, particularly in our context before COVID and after COVID. Those sort of issues can be captured, which is valid. Thanks for those comments anyway. Then now I want to go to the floor question from the student. Yes, I will finish from the Dhaka University Economics Department. What if there is a shift? Can shift be captured by in the dynamic context? Normally, these all econometric estimations are based on the past values, not the future values, right? Not as the dynamic stochastic general equilibrium sort of model, or nor it is from the CTE type of model, right? Econometrics is completely based on the past data. So whatever we recommend or whatever we make the policy formulation based on the past data, that may not fully capture the dynamics that will occur in the future. In that case, probably we should go for the another method. CG maybe is a kind of black hole, right? Black box, completely based on the priori information. Econometrics, those data are based on the post information. So somewhere in between DSE, some sort of things, but leverage economics that does not allow to capture those variants from the DSE as well. That's why we tried the best, whatever could be possible based on the past data. That is the story. Anyway, whatever the dynamics come, it means we have to make the research on these topics time to time, so frequently, so that we can understand the dynamics of the trade mechanism as well. And that's all from my side. Thank you so much for the comments, times, and opportunity.
We move on to Sandap.
Thanks. Thank you once again from organization to give me this opportunity to present the paper. So thank you, sir, Dr. Muhammad bin Islam, for your valuable comments. Actually, that is true that I did not calculate the export granularity at product level. I mean, I think in high medium product group, but we calculated the granularity at more disaggregated level, at 4-digit NIC classification level, which gives better result than to calculate this export granularity at each product group. We also calculated the export granularity at aggregate level for all manufacturing sectors for each 4-digit NIC classification. So due to the time limitation, I removed some slides from my presentations. This is the first regarding the missing data. That is true that there is some techniques which we can use to actually to generate the data for the missing data. That techniques work if the missing data is limited. For example, in my study, there is 1760 forms. So out of this 1760 manufacturing forms, we only have data for example, for 9,500 something forms. So it means half of the data is missing. In such circumstances, it is quite difficult to generate data. Even if we use mathematical techniques to generate data, the result will be more biased than the result that we get from the accurate or from the exact data that provided by the CMI. And regarding the why we are not using other index, again, there is data issue. So CMI providing, because we are using firm level data. So the CMI database provides only export data for the Indian manufacturing sector. So to use other index like RCA or revealed comparative advantage index, this kind of things, we need to have the world export as well. So, the world export from each 4-digit manufacturing industry. First, there is a classification difference. So in national industrial classification in India is different from the classification that other countries use for their manufacturing. So it is very difficult to concord the two. So this is one problem, and we don't have the world data, the export for the export of world, export of manufacturing from the world. That's why we only have export and import data. In the Lafayette comparative advantage index that we use gives this opportunity to calculate the real comparative advantage for the Indian manufacturing sectors only. Regarding this is very good, and actually all comments are good, but one interesting comment is we have to use variance decomposition. And for sure, I will include this variance decomposition in robustness check. Thank you so much. So now,
Thank you.
questions. Shall I answer these questions? Sir?
Oh,
So there is one question. Actually, there is two questions. So one is if a country does not follow protectionism theory, protectionism policy, how they protect the small firms which cannot compete with other firms. So in international trade or trade economists believe that moving toward trade increase the productivity and increase the efficiency. It means if we are allowing trade, all country of the world will be benefited from the trade. But you are right. In some cases, it is difficult. For example, firms from India compete with firms from the US, even with firms from the China. So in such circumstances, we can apply some protectionism, but for what I mean, my point is that protection a country can either follow protectionism or free trade, but free trade increase the welfare of the society, and protectionism reduce the productivity, it reduce welfare of the society. But countries either can follow protectionist theories to protect that forms, or it can follow liberalized trade policies. Regarding small and medium enterprises, so in this presentation, I told that it depends whether the granular firms significantly contribute to the total export of the sector, or if the granular firms significantly contribute to the total export of the sector, it means the sector is driven by that kind of firms. So in such circumstances, it is better to design such trade policies to improve the productivity of small and medium enterprise firms, because over reliance on granular firms will face the economy, will face challenges for the economy. And in such circumstances, it is good. It is good. My policy suggestion is that the Indian economy should support small and medium enterprises in such a product group, in such industry where the granular firms significantly contribute to the total export. But the country should support that granular firms also, because if these granular firms disappear from the industry, it means the comparative advantage of the sector or the comparative advantage of the country declines significantly. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We now have Kurata Thage, Rashmi, Anupama. Your say.
Okay, so thank you, Simon, and thank you, Chair, and the discussant for your for this opportunity and valuable comments. So, as the discussant commented, so that's true that the partial equilibrium model analyzes specific sectors and product categories in isolation without considering the spillover effect on the other sectors, and also and this assumes perfect elasticity in supply for the exporting countries, which does not account for the potential supply constraints. So that's why we are going to implement a data-based general equilibrium model to capture all the macroeconomic effects for the employment and the sectoral impacts. Also because and also we can capture the welfare as well. And also so this threshold level for the for criteria, actually we have taken this from the available literature, but as you suggested, we can go for the other sets of thresholds like 10 million. And to answer the question, the reason might be, as I mentioned, even in the presentation, so the countries might defensive in tariff liberalization to protect their domestic industry. So as I mentioned, so wearing apparel sector in Sri Lanka and the in Indonesia, and the rubber sector in Sri Lanka. So that's why we are suggesting a kind of phase out system like Sri Lanka Thailand free trade agreement. So it has 16 years for the phase out. So the phase out tariff phase out is done by several stages. So and also one reason, and also we can consider about the revealed comparative advantage for in these products exporting, and also another reason might be the impact on the indirect impact on the other sectors which are not directly affected by the PTA in trade flows, but they might be indirectly affected by the PTA with Indonesia or with Sri Lanka.
Continue.